Relationship is really the tightest I've ever seen in somebody, like between two human beings. I mean, we did everything together, clean the dishes together, do the yard work together, sports, you name anything in the world, it's always us two and one thing. So you're always just basically one person.
You guys just a few minutes apart?
4 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Austin was first by 4 minutes. He got stuck in me.
So technically your bigger brother.
Yes, ma'am. He does a lot of big brother stuff around. He's always on my back. Even if I'm in the wrong, he'll always take my side no matter what. It's just really heartbreaking to see someone that cares for you that much and does everything even by your side no matter what, just pass away like that.
Mm-hmm. Your mom told me that you were there.
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't mind, what happened?
There was this kid, before I knew his name now, this kid was sitting under our tent at track. We asked him to move. He started getting aggressive and talking reckless. And my brother stepped in and said, "You need to move." He's like, "Make me move." Austin grabbed his backpack. The kid, I tried to whip around as fast as I could, but I didn't see the stab. But then I looked at my brother, and then I'm not going to talk about the rest. No.
Obtained new court documents revealing how Austin Metcalf was stabbed to death at a track meet in Frisco. Police say another teenager had fresh blood on his finger when they found him at Kirkendall Stadium.
The affidavit shows that when officers arrived, Carmelo Anthony told them he got into an argument with Metcalf, and when the arresting officer said he had the alleged suspect in custody, Anthony replied, "I'm not alleged, I did it."
But Anthony told officers he only acted in self-defense and asked them if Metcalf was okay.
Several witnesses paint a different picture, and Metcalf's father told Matt Howerton he is not buying the excuse.
I had a dream last night, and Austin came to me and said, "I'm okay." It gives me peace. Doesn't mean I don't hurt.
The last 24 hours, unimaginable for Austin Metcalf's father, his mother, his twin brother.
Right now, I'm really numb, and I really don't feel anything. I just have to function.
Metcalf, just 17 when he arrived at Frisco ISD's district track meet Wednesday. His final breaths taken before 11 a.m., police say, after being stabbed to death by a fellow Frisco ISD student, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, now charged with first-degree murder.
My world's a little shattered.
An argument over where Anthony was sitting while the meet experienced a rain delay sparked a confrontation between the teen and Metcalf. According to arrest paperwork, Anthony sitting underneath Metcalf's team tent. You could see it from the air when we flew over the crime scene. Metcalf from Memorial High, Anthony from Centennial. A witness telling police Metcalf told Anthony to move from under the team's tent because he didn't go to their school. The witness telling police Anthony grabbed his bag, opened it, and reached inside and proceeded to tell Austin, "Touch me and see what happens." Investigators writing that Metcalf grabbed Anthony to tell him to move and that Anthony pulled out a black knife and stabbed Austin once in the chest and then ran away. When officers arrived, the knife was found and police say Anthony admitted to what happened, but said this to police: "He put his hands on me. I was protecting myself," even asking another officer if what happened could be considered self-defense.
What do you expect? If you're caught, the best thing you're gonna do is try to lie your way out of it.
Metcalf's father telling me self-defense is not a reasonable excuse.
The truth will come out. There were too many people that were there that saw what happened. My own son told me.
In Frisco, I'm Matt Howerton.
Just because the kid was mad, my son is not here anymore, and I don't understand it.
Just tell me about what happened today.
I don't know. I got a phone call from Hunter. He was screaming that Austin had been stabbed. I was at work, and so I drove. I work in Grapevine, so I drove up to the hospital straight away. I actually beat the ambulance there. Yeah, I saw them have him come out. He was on a lot of machines, and it didn't take long for them to come in to say that he had passed. So, not sure, senseless act of a boy that was in the wrong tent, and my son doing the right thing by telling that boy that he needed to be removed from where he was, and just doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's just because the kid was mad, my son is not here anymore, and I don't understand it.
Tell me about Austin. What do you want people to know about your boy?
He was the most amazing kid. Oh, so smart. He had college football guys looking at him to play in college. His goal was to play in college. He just wanted to play football. His life was going to the gym and working out and being a leader on his football team. And he just had such ambitions and a drive that it's hard to find in a kid. And he's just such a good spirit. And so many kids loved him. And his brother's lost his best friend.
They're twins, right?
Yeah, identical twins. Yeah.
They've been like,
They are the best of friends. Like, just I'm so worried about my son because he's gonna have to face this world alone now because he had a brother that was with him the whole time, and now he's gonna have to do it alone. And I'm just so worried about him. I really am.
was Hunter with Austin today?
He was. They made him go away when they were doing CPR on him, but he was there when he was stabbed, and he was holding, I guess, the wound to keep it from. He was trying to save his brother, but I think he said he saw when he took his last breath, and before the CPR came back in. So, for what I heard, he was unresponsive for 5 minutes. They were able to revive him a little, but I think it was too little, too late.
What can the community do for your family?
They need to support the kids at the school. Austin was loved by so many people. They need to know that there's other people out there for them and not against them, you know. And Frisco Memorial has got a football program it's in a process, and we want everybody to know that it's a family and they're there together. So, but just to put your arms wrap around the support. This is Hunter. Did you want to talk to him?
Oh, man.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
He's a good kid. We just got a little altercation, and that's really it. But he has a good heart. Everyone knows. Everyone around here knows he's a great kid. He just one mistake from that dude, and just took my brother. He didn't deserve it. No one deserves a loss from a family like that. I know people that lose their family members all the time, but I just didn't know it was gonna be mine so soon. My best friend and my brother my whole life, but if y'all could just not y'all, sorry. Just thank y'all for just comforting us, and the Frisco area has been comforting my family and me, and I just really appreciate everything that everyone's done. It's a really hard loss, but we're gonna get through it with my family, so we'll just stay together. I mean, our relationship is really the tightest I've ever seen in somebody, between two human beings. I mean, we did everything together, clean the dishes together, do the yard work together, sports, you name anything in the world, it's always us two and one thing. So you're always just basically one person.
You guys just a few minutes apart?
4 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Austin was first by 4 minutes. He got stuck in me.
So technically your bigger brother.
Yes, ma'am. He does a lot of big brother stuff around. He's always on my back. Even if I'm in the wrong, he'll always take my side no matter what. It's just really heartbreaking to see someone that cares for you that much and does everything even by your side no matter what, just pass away like that.
Mm-hmm. Your mom told me that you were there.
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't mind, what happened?
There was this kid, before I knew his name now, this kid was sitting under our tent at track. We asked him to move. He started getting aggressive and talking reckless. And my brother stepped in and said, "You need to move." He's like, "Make me move." Austin grabbed his backpack. The kid, I tried to whip around as fast as I could, but I didn't see the stab. But then I look at my brother, and then I'm not going to talk about the rest. So
Yeah.
that's just what I saw. And I tried to help him, but
It was just senseless.
it was really senseless. Really, I don't know why a person would do that to someone just over that little argument. It's just crazy in this world nowadays how people just up and do that. Like that man has a family. That man has people that care about them all the time, and he did everything for our family too. He was a strong man. He was a strong kid. Mm-hmm. Real strong. And I know I'm strong too, but he's a little stronger. But he did a lot for our family and a bunch of stuff that we just don't recognize. And it's just like, especially throughout our friends too, like everyone knew, like he was the peacemaker. That's what I'm saying. Like, I heard someone who really makes peace, really calms peace down. He makes everything sail smoothly. Because I get upset, but then he calms me down. He was just always there for me. So it's just really heartbreaking to see like how this happened.
Oh my goodness. And you guys are how old are you?
17.
17.
Yeah, they'll be 18 in July.
I saw a lot of articles say you guys were 16. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, they're 17.
Yes, ma'am.
Junior?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Austin wanted to play football.
He would have played college football.
he would have.
He,
For sure.
He definitely used his mindset, his skill level, his IQ of the game was probably the best I've seen in the Frisco area.
Yeah.
As a linebacker, he was a stud, and I always try to fill those shoes with him and play with him. And I had a blast my whole life playing sports with him my whole life. It was just me and him always good against people. And our last year together was this year, so it's just really heartbreaking not to see him next year on the field.
I'm so sorry, my love. Oh my goodness. I saw that he won like linebacker of the year or something.
For the Frisco Memorial, he was
Second team all district, which
Second
he
team
should have been
all-district.
first.
Yeah.
But it's just everyone knows around this area the impacts of what he does for football and what he does for families and friends. Like, he's just a great guy overall to be around, and it's
hard
just
worker.
extremely. It's just really hard. It's just really hard to see someone go like that just for like recklessness.
My focus of my story is, of course, on Austin. That is what's most important. But what would you say about the suspect and what's next?
I don't know anything about him. We have nothing to say.
I've never met this kid until right then. It really was under 30 seconds, this altercation. I've never met this kid in my entire life. And it's just...
And to be honest with you, we don't want to give him any recognition or any care, because that's not we're not, we have no desire to have anything to do with that man. So.
If Austin can hear you, what would you say to him?
I'd say, that's really hard, but I'd say a lot of things because I saw him before his last moments, and it was just...
How much we loved him. He knew that.
He knew how much I loved him, how
Yeah.
much I do for him. I do anything for him.
Yeah.
No matter what. He's called me, I think anything that he needs, I'll do it for him. He's just a great guy, so when you have a great guy, you want people to be around you, they're going to be around you no matter what. Like, he's a great leader. That's why I always want to tell him, like, I always wanted to be like him in that sense. It's like how he just communicates and has great ways with people all the time. And I always looked up to him for like that. He wasn't a big brother in a sense, he was the same age, but he was a big brother to me.
We just want to make sure that everybody knows how much that Austin is going to be still in our lives, as far as in our memories and our hearts forever. You know, it's going to be really hard. This is going to be really hard.
I can see how much you guys love and adore him.
Yeah, I'm really trying not to cry, but it's
Mr. Baby.
yeah. He was my big baby. He was 225 pounds. Both of them big boys, and I loved movie time with them. They would ask me if to watch a movie and sit on the couch, and he'd put his head on my lap, and I'd scratch his back, and he was just, I don't know, he'd tell me things. He was so personable with me, and you know, I knew stuff that most teenagers wouldn't tell their moms, that just things that because we were close, you know, and now it's going to be us wrangling the future together.
I know you were with him till the end, right? Did you hold him the whole time?
I didn't. They yanked me off him.
Yeah, they had to leave. He had to be removed when they did CPR, and then he wasn't able to be in the ambulance with him on the way to the hospital.
So it was just like hard throbbing the whole time, the whole ride on the hospital.
How did you get to the hospital?
My dad came. I called my mom. My mom didn't know. She didn't answer. She was at work, and then she answered my phone. And I told her what happened. She came in right away, and then we drove to the hospital. We're trying to figure everything out.
Yeah, it was hard. That was tough because I beat the ambulance there. I don't even know how that's possible, but I did because I came in from Grapevine.
He's, quote, "I'm not alleged, I did it. That is according to the arrest warrant obtained by KXAS-TV. And according to the warrant, Anthony appears to think that he was in the right for allegedly killing Metcalf, claiming self-defense. We'll get into why his self-defense argument may not work in court in just a moment.
Carmelo Anthony, class of 2025, Centennial High School, Frisco, Texas.
Anthony was also a football player. This was him mic'd up for a tournament that was posted on YouTube, and he linked to it on his X account. Anthony's high school was just about 7 miles from where Metcalf went to high school. It appears up until Wednesday, August 2nd, Anthony had somewhat of a bright future as well. His social media shows that he was getting offers to play college football. At least his social media claimed that. Like these Division III schools in Texas and Louisiana, and this small school in Kansas. On Huddle, which is a social media site for football recruits, he wrote, quote, "God has shown you the right path, just take it." That was in his bio. Now he's facing the possibility of never being on a football field again, or frankly being a free person ever again, because he is charged with murder. We saw a user write to him on X saying, quote, "Ruined your whole future, dude." Now, if the allegations are true, if he's convicted, frankly, the only future that truly matters in this story is that of Austin Metcalf, a future that was ended, and the future of his family and how they heal after what happened at this track meet on Wednesday this week. Austin's dad has a GoFundMe page. It has raised nearly $200,000. At the time of this recording, the page includes pictures of Austin, his dad, and his twin brother from when they were young. His dad writes, quote, "He was a leader of men. His smile would light up the room. His passion for football was unbelievable." And it's hard not to get emotional looking at this picture of a dad and his sons just fishing, looking out at the water at a pond, and to think of everything that was taken away by an alleged decision this week. On that GoFundMe page, his dad finishes by saying, quote, "We will all remember him for the way he impacted others' lives. I love you forever, son. It's not goodbye. It's see you later. God will take care of us till we meet again. RIP. Love, Dad." Austin's last post on social media was on March 31st. He wrote on X, quote, "Faith that God got me and my work will pay off." Join us now to talk about this case. It certainly has a lot of people talking, is trial attorney Bridget Williams, who joins us from Dallas, Texas. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. I know that this has been headline news in your city since it happened earlier this week. At this point, what are some of the questions that you have based off the information that we've been able to get so far?
Well, one, thank you so much for having me. I would say some of the questions that are running through my mind is just like, what is it that caused such a dispute to happen in the first place? What is it that could have caused it to have led to this in the first place? And also, just I feel like there needs to be some type of just education for individuals for what is it that is self-defense? What is it that it really means for self-defense? Because in a situation like this escalated so quickly from one person thinking that he was defending himself, and in fact, he wasn't.
Bridget, you bring up a good point, because I think it can be a very delicate part of these conversations and stories we cover to say that there was more than one life that was damaged in events like this, because there's nothing worse than what the Metcalf family went through. They will never see their son ever again. And then you look at this suspect, and you know, there's questions about why you would even bring a knife to a track meet or anything like that. But how do you balance that? And maybe it isn't even balancing it. I struggle with it, to say, you know, the idea that Carmelo Anthony, he had college offers to go play football, and then this decision on this day, April 2nd, at a track meet over something that probably at the end of the day never mattered at all. He likely could spend the rest of his life behind bars, and his family, who might have thought that they had a future college football player in their house, now very well may end up, for the majority of their lives, having to go visit him in a prison.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Something like this that just evolved and snowballed, that's what it seems like to me, snowballed over something that may have just been some high school students getting into some type of disagreement. And so the issue is that once that disagreement again begins to snowball, what is appropriate for self-defense? Whenever we're into just a oral disagreement, then that transfers over to a physical disagreement. How does it transfer then to a knife? And so, and under Texas law, you have to provide equal or lesser value, generally, so force, whenever we're talking about self-defense. Is it reasonable, and is it proportionate to that of what the perpetrator initiated before. Because in this situation, the suspect is stating he told the other person pretty much, don't touch me. And that person did, in fact, touch him, and then he pulled out a knife. So, yes, maybe there was some issues there where we talked about physical altercations, but that doesn't give you the right or the responsibility to respond back with a knife. It has to be reasonable and proportionate.
How do, once you get to a trial portion, actually be able to figure that out? Of, you'll have what he will say, and let's say if he goes with the self-defense argument when we get to that point, but then you're going to have witnesses that will lay out the narrative. And how do you get to the point where you figure out, okay, this is what people are saying what happened, and then this is the law, and you merge the two together to figure out what the appropriate punishment should be?
Yeah, I think that actually starts way before a trial setting. That would start really in the discovery aspect. So when we are looking through the discovery, and we'll be able to see what are the affidavits from each of the witnesses stating, what did the actual suspect himself state, because he made statements that were not where someone asked him any questions. He volunteered statements. And so all of that information is used even prior to trial. And so the state will be using that, all of those things combined in what we call totality of the circumstances, to offer him some type of offer punishment range. And so that is, I think it starts way before trial. It starts way before that. And so, and the state will again make an offer based off of all of those issues combined.
In a lot of these cases where someone makes a self-defense argument, and I feel like I don't even understand when these cases come up from state to state, where you would think someone feels, hey, I feel threatened, I have this weapon on me. In this case, it was allegedly a knife. Some cases we see someone who has a firearm, and in that moment they make this decision and they say, hey, I was defending myself. And then the police will say that's actually not what self-defense actually is. How common in the situations that you've dealt with in your career is there just a complete lack of awareness from a suspect or a defendant about what actually is self-defense?
It happens more often than you think. Here in Texas now, most people are allowed to carry a gun or a firearm. So we all know that. However, when we do those things, we need to also be educating ourselves, especially students as well. And students, and I would say everyone, really needs to educate themselves on when it is appropriate for self-defense. So we have several cases I've seen in my career where someone may have brandished a firearm driving down the interstate, just showing someone else a firearm if someone may have cut them off on the interstate or something, and that is not allowed. Like, you cannot do that. You can be charged. And so I think just educating ourselves on what the law says self-defense is, in combination with getting a firearm if you're going to get one, that is really important, because you want to make sure that you are protecting yourself, and then that you are making sure that you're doing everything proper so you won't be charged in something going down the line.
Yeah, I look at this case, very different situation, but like Daniel Penny in New York, who was the man on a subway who claimed self-defense when there was someone having a mental health episode, and that person ends up losing their life. Of course, stand your ground laws in Florida are always a hot topic when a case comes up involving those. Why is it that it seems like from state to state, we have a difficult time across the board understanding what self-defense actually looks like?
It's difficult because every state has their own rules, right? So every state has a different set of self-defense rules. Just like you stated, in Florida, there's stand your ground laws. In Texas, we don't necessarily have that. So here in the state of Texas, again, self-defense has to be reasonable, and it has to be appropriate for exactly what it is that the perpetrator or the other person initiated. And so the important thing to do is, if you're going to be in a state, to inform yourself about the laws of that particular state. Ignorance of the law is not a defense. It never is. It never will be. And so you have to make sure that you are informed in the best way possible, learning as much as possible as you can if you're going to be in a particular state. And so that way you'll know how to protect yourself.
This suspect, Carmelo Anthony, is being held on $1 million bond. He's been charged with murder. I'm sure you've had difficult conversations with people who have been charged with crimes they never thought that they would ever be charged with, people who are not career criminals. What are those conversations like?
Those conversations can sometimes be very difficult. We're having that conversation a lot of times with the actual client, so that could the defendant himself, but also their family, because this situation not only impacts just this one person, but it impacts their families and their lives for a very, very long time. So those conversations can be extremely difficult. This suspect being held on a $1 million bond is not uncommon. I think that that is generally appropriate. In this specific city, Frisco, that is what we call Collin County, they are putting a bond in place because of the offense, right? So the nature of the offense, which is a murder case, is he a danger to himself and to others? In a situation like this, you presented a knife at a physical altercation, you're a danger to others, and you could very well be a danger to yourself. And so I don't foresee a judge going down much lower on the bond. More than likely, his attorney will have a bond hearing asking the court to reduce that bond down if his family cannot afford to post that bond for him. But that would be the next steps for a defense attorney to try to set a bond hearing to try to get his bond reduced down. However, based on the nature of the offense and his danger, just status to community, to others, with something such of this magnitude, I don't foresee it going down much, much lower.
In cases when it comes to bond, because I know in some cases you might be able to get a bail bondsman and you only have to put down, I think in some states like 10%. I mean, 10%. Realistically, what 10%, what would his family have to put forward if he was to be released on bond ahead of trial?
Yeah, and that's up to him and his family. So here in Texas, you can do what's called a bail bond or a surety bond, where they can get a bail bondsman to post the bond for them, where they would have to pay 10% along with some state fees. That's the norm. Some bail bondsmen charge a little more than that, but they have that as an option. Or they can pay a cash bond. The cash bond is where they would pay the full amount, but then they would get that full amount back once the case is resolved. When you pay the surety bond with the bail bondsman, you never get that money back. That is the money that you pay directly to them. And then the bail bondsman company is responsible, fully responsible. If you don't show back up to court, now they are fully responsible for the full amount of that bond to the court. So the cash bond is the other option, where they can pay the full amount directly to the court. The family will get that amount back at the end of the case.
In this suspect, Carmelo Anthony, 17 years old, so technically still a minor being charged as an adult. Why is it in so many cases when someone's close to being 18, even though they're still a juvenile, they are charged as an adult?
It just really just depends. Every case is just such a case-by-case basis. And then the courts will, the juvenile courts can sometimes just petition to the district courts in order for, based off of the severity of the offense, for that to be tried in a district court or county court at law. This is a severity type of case. I don't see why it's not moving forward in the district court. This is where it needs to be.
What's the timeline if this is something that happened on April 2nd? So I think it was on Wednesday this week. What's the timeline look like to when there eventually could be a trial?
It really just depends. So the cases such as this have no what we call statute of limitations. And so the police department has quite some time to build up their case. And then once they do that, they present it to the DA's office. The DA's office at the felony level then will present that case to a grand jury. The grand jury then decides if there has been enough probable cause and then moves forward to an actual prosecutor. That time frame could take months. It could technically take years before he actually has a trial date or a court date. So before we get to a trial date, before he gets to a court date. So that process could take months, years before we even get started on moving forward with this case.
And I think of Carmelo Anthony, this isn't someone who I've seen has a criminal record, not like a career criminal, someone who appeared to be, had a bright future, on the right track, captain of the football team, had college offers. How much will the court take that into consideration when eventually, if he's found guilty? And listen, he's charged with, there's no worse offense than taking the life of someone else. And Austin Metcalf's family, he's gone forever. So I'm not making light of that. But I do think of, this not being a career criminal and someone in the heat of the moment made a terrible, terrible decision thinking it was self-defense. Does any of that, could that factor into how much time he potentially could spend in prison?
I think that those things would go into account during the punishment phase. So not necessarily during the guilt innocence phase. And that's if this even moves forward to a trial. So let's say that, let's go back a little bit. Let's say that they decide that they're not going to move forward with the trial setting and they're going to try to work out some type of agreement with the prosecutors. The prosecutors will then be able to take that into account in some type of mitigating circumstances, stating just all the things that you just said. Maybe he was a great student, straight A's, about to go to college and was a great athlete, all these different things. And so those are things that can be taken into account there. If he moves forward with a trial setting, that does not go into effect, in my opinion, for the guilt innocence phase. It's either, did you meet the elements that for murder? Yes, no. And then once that is confirmed or not confirmed, if it is confirmed, then those things will go into account for the punishment phase, which is separate. And so a lot of times the defense attorney will be building up the case there for the punishment phase to try to reduce the punishment as much as possible.
How likely is it, with what maybe just what you know from what prosecutors are like in the county where Frisco is located, and also the evidence at this point that it seems that the authorities have, that they would do a plea deal or negotiate a plea deal, as opposed to just saying, we have pretty clear evidence that you did this, we're going to take this to trial and make sure you face the full extent of the law?
Yeah, I think that the prosecutors in most counties around Texas, around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, are going to be somewhat reasonable. They're going to take in that information as much as possible. Just like we stated before, we're going to use mitigating circumstances to take into consideration the punishment phase and what is appropriate for this particular defendant. Now, the prosecutors do run all of the offers that they provide generally by the victim. In this situation, the victim's family. So if they offer him 10 years TDCJ, which is prison, then normally they run that past the family and make sure that the family is okay with that offer. They don't have to wait for their approval, but generally they just run it by them to see how they feel about it, and if that is something that they would be okay with. And so I definitely think that it is something that they take into consideration. But it's always up to the prosecutors every time to decide on what they will be offering. And then if they move forward in the trial setting, if they decide to go to the judge or the jury for punishment.
For people convicted of murder in Texas and in the Dallas area, in Frisco, I mean, what's typically the punishment? I know the most would be life behind bars, but realistically, how many years could he be spending behind bars in prison?
I mean, you're right. The maximum is 99 years. So many things go into consideration for that. And so when we say, well, what's realistic is up to 99 years. And so it just really just depends on so many factors, the factors of what comes out in the discovery, what comes out in the mitigating circumstances that we talked about. What is, was he about to go to college? What was the heat of the moment situation? And that's really the defense job, to try to work with the state and try to reduce that time as much as possible. So I don't want to say there's a specific number, because every case is different. And so it just really depends, case by case.
And just lastly, Bridget, as someone who deals with cases with people accused of crimes that were heat of the moment crimes, they weren't career criminals. I was on the street reporter for a good part of my career, and so many of the murders that I've covered, someone just felt disrespected over something that just wouldn't matter 15 minutes from now. And yet they make a decision, heat of the moment, someone loses their life, and then they spend the rest of their life in prison. How do we get past that? How do we deal with these situations so we don't have stories like this where someone like Austin Metcalf loses his life? Really,
the only way is education. educating individuals on what is important for self-defense, when understanding what self-defense is, but then also how do we really control our emotions? How do we control our anger and be able to tell someone effectively that they're bothering us, or making sure that we stop whatever the behavior is without escalating it to bringing a knife in a physical argument. But also, I feel like a combination of education on what self-defense is, educating ourselves on the laws of our state, and then